Something that comes back to me is like a sense of faith. And I don't mean that in any really religious context. I mean like as faith of having trust in the divine order, in your biology, and how you were created. Faith that you and baby are going to be safe and that you're designed to do this.
This last third birth, my kind of psychedelic experience was I literally felt like I was like drifting off into outer space, like orbiting outside the earth, and the only thing grounding me was holding on to Matt.
Our boys did great with it. Ian was super present and supportive, and Soul he didn't seem startled. He wasn't concerned. He was totally there.
Yeah.
Kind of got bored after a little bit, but he was like, that's when he went and turned on. He got a hold of your computer, which had your like mantra music going on, and then like turned on Bluey.
Welcome to the Radically Honest Mom podcast, where we share vulnerable stories and insights about birth, mothering, and marriage that inspire a deeper rooted commitment to sovereignty, confidence, and connection. This is part 3 of my 3-part series, The Journey to Luna Rose. My husband, Matt, is here today to share all about the experience of the birth of our third baby. If you didn't yet, make sure to check out the part 1 and part 2, which is the lead up to getting pregnant and then my pregnancy recap. My name is Hannah Rose, and I'm a doula and childbirth educator. I support women through the pregnancy and birth continuum in person and online with my Women's Circle and Childbirth Education mentorship called Rooted. Find out more about it in the show notes, and if you want to learn about unmedicated physiologic birth, even in a hospital, I have a free masterclass that covers the foundations. The link will be in the show notes as well. The last thing I want to let everyone know is that the birth vlog is out on YouTube, so check that out. We have an extended edit with extra timestamps that's available, so you can see in almost real time how a physiologic, undisturbed birth might unfold. I'll link both of those for you. Okay, let's get into it. So, babe.
Yes, my love.
When we talk about kind of preparation for birth, how did you feel going into this birth that was maybe different than the first 2 births? Start with a little bit of context. Our first birth in 2017, which was almost 9 years ago, we had a home birth with midwives. It's been almost 4 years since the second baby was born, Soul. And for that one, I just really made the decision that I wanted to do unassisted and that I didn't want to hire midwives again. And it being our first experience like that, it was a little challenging navigating it as a couple and Matt getting on board, but we got through it and it ended up being amazing. So I chose that again for this third birth, which again, I loved. So
yeah, I'd like to just add when Soul was born, our second son, when you brought up the desire to have an unassisted birth, I definitely had resistance. I wasn't really clear as to why it was so important to you. Some of the safety stuff and the fear stuff that was coming up of like, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know, I trust your capabilities, but what do I do in the case of an emergency? And so there was definitely a lot of like uncertainty and fear that really, when I've gone through it, it's like a lot of programming of lack of trust in the physiologic birthing process of mother and baby. But we survived that birth, and not only survived it, it was amazing and beautiful. And the birth itself was like, wow. And I felt like that was so peaceful and nice. It was wonderful, and seeing you give birth was incredible. And so when we found out that we were having this baby, I was definitely on board. So I felt like it was more of a mutual decision where it's like, now I don't even think I would see doing it any other way. So with Soul's birth, our second son, the big difference between that birth and this birth is preparation and education and experience and confidence. That is like a major piece. Is like the first time we really went in and did the Freebirth Society course. We watched information because I was like, if we're going to do this, unassisted birth, then I need to be educated. So there's very little that I can really do other than protect the space and to try to assess if anything seems abnormal. And experience of seeing you go through it, something that comes back to me is like a sense of faith. And I don't mean that in any really religious context. I mean like as faith of having trust in the divine order, in your biology, and how you were created, faith that you and baby are going to be safe and that you're designed to do this, to remind myself of like, well, we've been procreating as a species for thousands of years, never with doctors or anything like that. So it's to remind myself of like beyond all the programming that this is what women and mothers are designed to do. And so that was a big piece of it. And and then the experience of watching you give birth on your own, in your element, trusting, putting into practice your mantras and your breathing techniques and all those things. So yeah, that. And then with this birth, just feeling just way more confident after that experience. I was really had now the experience to back my faith of being like, she's got this. And no matter what occurs, this is the divine order of things. And so this is what humans were made to do. This is what mothers were made to do.
And that's the thing too. My births have been like 8 to 10 hours, but it's really just the last hour for me anyway, where it gets like, wow, this is really intense. And you just get through one breath at a time, one contraction at a time. And I have my man, he's like the rock, and the grounding of the situation. And I'm just like, it's just amazing to have a partner that's so confident and grounded in that, because it's like, I feel like it's necessary for me, because in those moments I'm like, I knew that this was going to be hard, but I'm like holding on to you, and it just helps me get through.
Is that what you call breaking my wrist almost?
Well, this last time, I mean, since we're talking about it, with this third birth, with the second birth, I felt like, people talk about psychedelic experiences in birth, and I can't really explain it in that way. My second birth, it felt actually really primal and sexual to me. And with this last third birth, my kind of psychedelic experience was I literally felt like I was like drifting off into outer space, like orbiting outside the earth, and the only thing grounding me was holding on to Matt. That was my kind of, my trip with this last birth. Let's talk about due dates and expectations really quick before we get into the story. I just, for context again, my first birth, I went into labor exactly 40 weeks, and then Soul was 37 weeks and 4 days, and this last one was 38 weeks and 4 days. You have to be really careful with planning around a due date guesstimate window. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Now I know. One of the big things was like, now I know within a month or whatever it is, whether we have plans or not, they are secondary to anything that's going on. And if we have a plan, part of the planning, because Ian still has his birthday, all of our kids have their birthdays right around the same time. We're still going to plan a birthday party, but if it has to change dates, then we'll change the dates. And that was part of my mental preparation this time, was being like, it doesn't matter. I'll tell people, sorry.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Yeah. So preparing that space, and then giving myself this big window of being like, when it happens is when it happens. I'm fully open and I'm ready for it. And I'm grounding myself. I'm mentally grounding myself prior to that. At any moment it could occur wherever we are. In this one, we were going down to San Diego for your sister's wedding. What?
So it was like the last weekend of June.
End of June, beginning of July.
And it had already been planned before I got pregnant.
Yeah.
So
we were not going to miss your little sister's wedding.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big deal. And so I was like, well, part of my preparation was, well, we've got plans. So if we're going to, when we went down to San Diego, we had stuff there of like, we might give birth in this car
Yeah, I had a whole backpack.
or in a hotel room.
I had a backpack with a few, kind of, you don't need much really, but a few supplies. But and we talked through it. We're like, okay, what happens if I go into labor the day we leave?
Yeah,
or the
what
day that
happens
we're
if we're
supposed to leave.
5 hours from home and 5
Yeah.
hours from San Diego?
Yeah, we talk through different scenarios.
Do we jump into a motel? Are we just chilling into the car? Are we trying to get to a clear destination where we can know there's a clean hotel?
Yeah, yeah.
With some hospitals around if in case of an emergency.
Yeah, we talked through various scenarios, which I think made us both feel more confident. And we were just willing to do it because it was such an important event.
Yeah. And that was like, so planning things around the due date, we still had things planned. It's just now it's like in my mind, it's like, well, whatever it is, we're ready. And whatever it is, mama's got this. Yeah. That was part of my mental preparation, my faith in the physiologic process is like, no matter where and what it is, you've got this. I've got the boys. I'll support them and I'll support you, and we'll clear out and do whatever is necessary and to create the container.
So that's another thing that I wanted to talk about is how did you feel? Because with this third birth, it was a new version of our family. So this essentially plan of our children, our 2-year-old and 7-year-old, who both had birthdays. So they had just turned 3 and 8. And they were going to, if they were awake, they were going to be at the birth. And our 8-year-old was like, wake me up if it's in the middle of the night. He wanted to be part of it. So we just didn't know, was it going to happen then or in the middle of the day? I think there's a lot of trust that has to happen when you are going to have a home birth with children present, especially with a toddler, 3-year-old, 2-year-old. They're so sweet and cute, but at the same time, they need attention. So was there, what were you thinking in terms of, we weren't inviting any support people. We had your mom and dad kind of on call. The kind of intention was to have it this really intimate, family, sacred experience, but you were going to be navigating, supporting me and supporting the kids. How are you feeling going into that?
I honestly felt pretty good about it after the first unassisted birth, which was preparing me for me being the real anchor point. I felt confident. I felt good. I felt like Ian was going to be there for support. I was a little uncertain how Soul was going to do. And sometimes he's really in the scene and wants to be part of it. But I also was feeling really confident and knew that, they're excited. They're excited to meet their baby sibling. In some ways, I want my parents there because it's my baby, one of their grandkids. And at the same time, I totally understand protecting the space. I feel like my parents are very respectful and they'd be happy to sit outside or be with the kids and whatnot. But we wanted the kids present. And I knew they were on call and they're only 40 minutes away. So it wasn't the biggest deal. I felt really confident in our ability to navigate it as a family. So when things started to kind of get more intense with the birth and you actually asked me to reach out to my mom to ask her to come and support the boys, that was really nice. I felt like that was a really pleasant part of it. Was it wasn't a requirement. We were protecting the space. I'm protecting your space. I had to navigate with my parents being yeah, we don't want anyone there. We will call you if we need that. So be available if you can, but don't take offense to it. It's not because we don't love you or don't want you there. It's just we're protecting this sacred moment. And so when you did reach out and being call mom, please, I want her here, that felt very sweet. And then the boys were there and they were totally so helpful and sweet. He was helping us with the camera and holding the camera and asking questions and just being really protective of you and in a gentle way and super sweet. And Soul was engaged and he was what's going on? And then he got bored and turned on Bluey over your music mantras and stuff. But it was super nice to have our boys there, and I just felt really good being as a family and holding that space for us. And then it was very nice to have my mom's support afterwards with the boys to take them to the park. So we got to have our special private time with just Luna Rose.
It was just really perfect timing because they didn't get there until after she was born. Once we were ready, then they took the kids out. So the actual birth process, about 3 days before, felt like when I got out of the shower, I felt a little bit of like a leak, and I think it was a leak, but I was still like, because of the shower water and everything, I was not 100% sure. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna go on with my day, not having consistent contractions. So I just went on, and 3 days went by, and there was, I think the day before or 2 days before, I went out to the lake. I brought our 8-year-old out to the lake about 25 minutes from our house, and we had to get paddleboarded to the beach. And I literally ate my sandwich and slept on the beach. I was just like, I didn't really talk to anybody or play in the water. I was just like, yep, I'm tired. But I was like, whatever, I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to do what I would do. I felt like 25 minutes was not that bad. So did that. And then I think it was the next day, it was into the evening. We had made sushi at our house. And then I couldn't sleep that night. I was just wide awake, and I have a walk-in closet that I have like a mirror in there, and some books and journals, and that's like my little sacred space was my closet, because our house is small right now. So I was in there, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I had this folder, and I don't know why I was possessed by spirit or whatever. I started going through this little folder, and it had like really beautiful special pictures and special little pieces of art. And I found this poem that I wrote for my mom, and my mom passed away in 2013. And at the end of the poem, it said, one day I'll have a daughter of my own, and like, I'll take care of her like you took care of me, or something along those lines. And I'm just sitting in my closet bawling, so emotional. And my 3rd trimester had been really emotional for me. That was just like nice to have that emotional release. I think that was so synchronistic to find that poem in that moment. And then I was like, okay, I feel like I can go to sleep now. So I laid down in my bed, and I started, like, I had, my belly tightening. So, and then I still couldn't go to sleep because it kind of kept happening every so often, every 15, 20 minutes or so, I don't know. And I had my heating pad, and I put that on my belly. This is the most consistent that I've had the tightenings up until this point. And then it was like, my memory was at 3:30. I know I looked at the clock, and it was feeling a little bit more intense, and I was like wanting to move. And that's when I woke Matt up and said, I'm having these contractions more consistently, and I haven't been able to sleep. And then when I stood up to get out of the bed, I had a little gush of water. It wasn't gigantic because it didn't make a huge mess, but it was something. And then I think I got in the bath. So that was kind of the start of it. And from there, I mean, I just spent a lot of time in the bath, kind of getting in and out of the bath. Our vlog, check it out because you can see it all on video. And your energy from the very beginning of me waking you up, you were so grounded and just confident and like, let's do this, we got this, and we're going to navigate the kids, we're going to navigate this whole thing. And even if it doesn't happen today, whatever, like, you were so solid, and I just really appreciated that energy. And you were just like being so supportive of like asking me what I wanted or how you could help, and making sure I had my different drinks and snacks. And you were encouraging me to rest as much as I could, which is always a good idea, especially in early labor, because you never know how long it's going to take. So it was just really funny being us, I think maybe 5 in the morning, 5:30, and we're just in the bathroom. And one of your joke of, should I go to Costco now? Is this a good time to go to Costco? And I was already, like, if you watch the video, I was already getting, like, I was tranced out. Like, I was already in the vibe at this point, in early labor even. And so it wasn't like at that point, the contractions weren't like super painful or anything, especially being in the bath. But I was just like, I could barely keep my eyes open. And I was just so like kind of blissed out and relaxed. Yeah, that was a funny giggle.
I mean, like, humor is, I think, is really important to me. And part of it is, like, was my commitment to being present for this birth, because when Soul was being born, I was like, well, we need to, like, do shopping, and there's things we need that I wasn't prepared for. And so, be at this point, because we live, like, 50 minutes from a Costco.
Yeah.
So that was like partially my way of poking fun at myself, because humor definitely like anchors me in and makes me feel present and keeps the energy light. So I was like trying to make little jokes, trying to keep you laughing.
Yeah. That's a good time for it too, and more early labor. So from there, and we had one side note was the rose petals. Like, can you put some rose petals in the bath?
Well, I remember I had a vision of there being rose petals in the bath, and so I was committed to keeping roses in the house.
Yeah, and that was one of the cutest moments for me of Soul, the 3-year-old, was at one point in the video, he kind of like scooted underneath you and had like a little handful of rose petals, and he's like throwing him in the bath because there's this little pile at one point on the side. It melts my heart. So cute. Like his way of helping was putting more rose petals in the bath. I was able to get out of the bath and take like a cat nap, and I really think that was some people call it the rest and be grateful phase, where there's like a little lull in contractions before active labor. And so I'm pretty sure that's what that was. And it was maybe a 20-ish minute cat nap, not very long, but so grateful for that because I was getting tired. And then got up and got right back in the bath. And some people say, like, I think it is true, being in that warm water can slow your labor down. But at the same time, I'm just such a big believer in water birth and the benefits of having it help relax your body. And I was just actually hearing about the benefits of it. And it just blows my mind that some people want to put it on the cross and think that it's dangerous, because there's actually very little evidence to prove that. There's way more evidence to prove that it's safe and effective. So even if it was slowing my labor down a little bit, I liked it. I mean, especially because at that point, the contractions were getting more and more intense. So Ian woke up at, I think, 7:30 or 8. And he was just the sweetest. He was so excited, like, yay, we get to meet our new family member today. And he also had guessed that day, July 10th, we had all done a guess for when the baby was going to come. And he totally got the right day, which was so cool. I remember you're like, I got to take the trash out, or I want to, is that okay? And Ian stayed with me, and he was just so like chill and present. And you kind of like, you did actually have a little talk with him, reminding him, don't ask her too many questions, because she's just really getting deep in her experience right now, and she doesn't want to think about things, even though it was fine at some points, because it's nice to be distracted to a certain degree, but at the same time, really good to stay kind of in my own experience. And then Soul woke up. I think active labor, I mean, it was the last hour, because she was born at 9 a.m. My active labor was really only like the last hour. And I just got through it one contraction at a time. I had thrown up and transition, and then pushing. I started feeling pushy as soon as I threw up. And that was only the last 30 minutes. So Soul got there actually at a perfect time, where he saw me being calm, and I actually told him, I just reminded him, like, hey Soul, like, just remember, mommy's gonna be pushing and making some noises bringing the baby, but I'm okay. So I wasn't worried about him, because I had talked to him about it quite a bit leading up to the birth, and so I felt like he had some mental preparation, and he did great. Even though I'm loud when I'm pushing, it's not like a scary screaming loud. Mm-hmm. It's a very deep grounding kind of vibrational.
Not like the movies.
Yeah, it's not a scream.
That seems terrifying. Yeah. Movies are scary. Yeah. Scary birth movies. Yours is more of like an opening and like this like
Yeah.
connection of like, you're on the threshold of pain for sure,
Yeah.
but it's not terrifying. And I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, our boys did great with it. Ian was super present and supportive, and he didn't seem startled. He wasn't
Yeah.
concerned. He was
Yeah.
totally there.
Yeah.
He kind of got bored after a little bit, but he was like, that's when he went and turned on. He got a hold of your computer, which had your like mantra music going on, and then like turned on Bluey, which I was like, okay, I guess we're listening to Bluey right now.
Well, it was funny because Ian said, like, no, Soul, don't do that. And you were like, it's okay. It's fine. He's okay. And I was just like, oh, yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I actually counted because we had the video. It was 8 contractions in that 30 minutes of pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I wrote down some of the things that you told me because I just thought it was, if you don't know, Matt's a writer. So he has some really beautiful things to say in general, but I just wanted to read a couple because at one point I said, I can't believe I did this before. And he said, I can. I've seen it with my own eyes. Always been so inspired by your courageous power, graceful, majestic, absolute divine magic. If that doesn't put you at ease, I don't know what will.
What's the other thing I said? It was something about, you've done this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You've done this before. Like, you're made for this. This is the sentiment that I was feeling of like, this isn't, even if you've done it twice before, one of your missions on this life are is to continue to perpetuate our life and our existence and bring babies into the world. And it's what's been going on. And, in my understanding of things, it's like energy is neither created nor destroyed. So this isn't our first time here. It's maybe our first time in these bodies, these particular vessels, but like you've done this. And that's one thing I felt with Soul's birth a lot was like, oh, you know what you're doing. Your body knows what to do.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. This is happening in some capacity. Whatever the outcome is, who knows? But birth is a thing that's going to happen.
Okay. So we got to the point, we got to the very end of the birth. There was, both the kids are there. It was like 30 minutes of pushing. It was 8 contractions. You can see it watch it on the video on YouTube. And yeah, I talked about my kind of psychedelic experience. And yeah, she was crowning, her head was coming out, and I was like holding her hair. She had tons of hair, and there's usually a pause, and so it was just like the head there for a minute, and then the last contraction and her body came out, and Matt just kind of like helped pull her up to my chest. And I don't know why necessarily. I've never felt super called to kind of deliver my own baby with my own hands. I like that you help because I just feel so like it just seems awkward to me to like bend over because my stomach is like I'm just going through a lot, and I don't know, some women do it, but I like that you catch our babies.
Me too.
Yeah, so it was like she came to me and I just saw like a little barely, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's a girl. And that was like the first thing I said was, I think it's a girl, I think it's a girl. But I wasn't 100% sure because it was so fast. And then she was quiet. She wasn't crying immediately. And so looking back on the video, it was like a good 60 seconds before she cried. And I said to Matt, like, is she okay? Because I was really kind of just wondering, like, is there anything that you can see that I can't see? So I just asked that. Matt was just like kind of crying and happy and smiling and just like in awe of the moment and that she was out and here. And I think you were kind of like, is it a girl? Is it a boy? I don't know. So you didn't seem stressed that she wasn't crying right away.
I mean, I wasn't stressed, but there was a thought where I was like wondering. My commitment during the process was to remain calm and collected no matter what was happening. And so as I wasn't super concerned with the 60 seconds. So when you were asking that, you were asking, is she okay? Is she okay? And I kind of more of like was just sitting there and letting it be revealed. And I was also having trust in the experience because I'm like, things don't happen, immediately all the time. I was pretty calm and trusting in the process.
Yeah, and looking back to on the video, her body had good tone and she had good color. She wasn't like limp or anything. Like she looked really good.
Yeah, I mean when I handed her to you, she wasn't making noise right away, but I'm like it didn't alarm me. And then once you were rubbing her back is when she started crying.
Not to downplay that sometimes bad outcomes happen or that stillbirth can happen, but we really just don't give babies a chance to transition, especially in the hospital. If the baby's born and they're not making noises immediately, it's an emergency and they're cutting the cord, which just doesn't even make sense to me. So I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to create the experience that we want and have the baby at least attached with the cord for a long period of time, because I feel like that's important to me. I believe in the benefits of that. So
when you were asking me about was I concerned, was my thought, was even if the baby was stillborn or anything like that, then my commitment is still to be calm and allow the experience to be what it is. And so we could cherish that moment for whatever it was. Grateful that wasn't the outcome, but that was partially my thought process going into it, is trusting and remaining calm, because birth isn't a guaranteed thing no matter what, with all the right things going on. So, and then as far as the umbilical cord, I think kind of feels obvious to me that it should stay connected and give the baby as much time as needed. And it feels really special to be the one to cut the cord, even though we didn't cut it technically. But
yeah, we burned the cord.
Yeah, which is intense in its own way.
Yeah, the placenta came out really easy. I've never had an issue with that. And then we all moved to the bedroom and then eventually burned the cord with wax candles. And Ian, our 8-year-old, helped.
It takes a long time to do it that way.
Yeah, it's a good 5 minutes or something.
Takes quite a while. And yeah, it's a little bit intense in that regard. From comparing the cutting process when we did it with Ian, because I cut his cord with that one. And then with Soul, we burned it. And then we did it again with this one. It still feels natural, and it's kind of like an opportunity to have reverence and to take my time. We take our time with this. It's like this umbilical cord has been bringing life to the baby and connecting mother to baby for 9-ish months. And so taking the few minutes that it takes to patiently burn through it, I feel is like a nice meditation of giving gratitude for life force.
Yeah. Slows it down. Well, thank you, babe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we finally got the story on video. It's been a process, but it was fun. It was intense. It was beautiful. It was sacred. And thank you for being my partner.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing me, choosing our family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful that they chose us.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you for listening. You can support the show by leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Learn more about my private women's circle and birth education mentorship, Rooted. It's linked in the show notes. See you next time.